So, welcome everyone. Today I'm so lucky to have Sharon Freedman here with me. I'm just going to make sure we're recording this. Great. So, Sharon is a dear friend of mine, and she just got 35 meetings with managers and agents and signed with the pick of the litter. And so I really want to go deep into how she made it happen, what came up along the way, and all the thoughts and feelings that come along with that. But if you're listening today, I want to make sure that you're tuning in to think about how you might take a little bit of what Sharon is sharing today and how you can put that into your own search for representation. And also, Agent Goals is coming up. Next week, we have the Make Agents Want You webinar. I hope you're going to join me for that. It is an hour jam-packed with the three things that get in the way every time the three biggest lies is what I like to call them. I used to call them fake news, but that was kind of sending the wrong message. So the three biggest lies that hold you back from landing with fabulous representation. And this is a wholehearted look at where we can stop playing small and really own some tricks and tools of the trade to make it happen for you. And it's completely free, so I hope you join me for that. And Agent Goals is coming in October. Later that month, I'll be launching into the course, and Sharon was a part of that program, so I want you to hear from her. So without any more further ado, Sharon, welcome. I want to welcome Sharon Freedman for being with us today. How are you doing today?
I am great. It's warm in sunny California, but I'm good. I'm happy to be here with you.
And I should warn everyone listening that both of us are puppy parents. So you may hear a little bark here and there, but we think we've got them both happy right now, so they shouldn't bother us too much. But if you hear them, they're just excited about Sharon's meetings and what's been happening. So you had some really good recent news. So could we just fast forward to that for 1 second? Just like what happened most recently, like this week. I think you had something great happen. It's only Tuesday, but what happened this week?
Well, in the last 7 days, I had my first two auditions that my manager secured for me. Yay. And one was a recurring guest star and the other was a series regular. So I'm very, very happy with how the relationship is going.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And tell me a little bit. So before this all happened, before you get to this manager, what was the situation? Like, what was the lay of the land for you when that came to representation and the whole representation game of like trying to get reps who really worked for you? Can you tell us a little bit about that story for you?
Yeah, I mean, it has been a process of a lot of years, and I've had representation and then not, and then had it and didn't, and often it wasn't the right fit, or I would do mailings and try, and then none of the people I thought that I wanted were interested in the moment. I had the best manager I had died while we were working together.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. And there just came a point that I've always felt like if I don't get a role, that it's definitely not rejection. It is not personal. They're not choosing the other person because they want to not choose me. It just isn't my role, and it's that other actor's role. But with representation, it felt so much more personal. Like they are saying, we don't think we can sell you. We don't think that you're a viable option those were the stories that were being written in my head, is that I am too hard to sell and no one would want to represent me.
Yeah. And what I hear in that, and it's so, I don't want to rush by this because actually this is a very lonely and hard and sad feeling. And I think that I'm sure other actors listening like can feel that way, because when it's the gatekeeper, maybe you might think of the manager agent being the one who can maybe open more doors for you, right? Is we can feel like if they're saying no and they see what's going on in the business, then there must really be something not great about what I've got going on, or I must not be doing so. Like you can really write that story quickly.
Right.
And so tell me what's been different this time. How did you land this manager this time? Share your results with us.
Well, as you mentioned, I had about 35 meetings, and
wait, can we just celebrate 35 meetings? Yes. Like, who cares? You started the marriage, but 35 meetings is a lot of freaking meetings.
Yes. And I have to say that I was having the best time in the meetings because I felt like I was just so me and so present and proud of talking about who I am and what I have to offer and where I've been and my past experiences and my future plans. And I just felt like that was very clear by the time I got to the meetings.
So how'd that happen? Tell me how'd you get that clear? So I'm going to keep interrupting you the whole way because my job here is to make sure that for you guys listening, that you can hear the steps that Sharon took and that we dissect a little bit of the process, right? And also what she was going through inside, because we can be very hung up on like, show me the mile markers. How'd you get this? And how'd you get this? And I want to make sure we're really like journeying with you internally so we can see ourselves in the process. So how did you get to the point where you were like, I'm the cat's pajamas at 35 meetings? Tell me a little more about that.
Well, I definitely am the cat's pajamas.
Yes.
So a lot of it, I would just say that the personal work that we did in this program, and so you have the pledge, which at first when you mentioned to me that we're going to have a pledge in the program about, our commitment to this, and I was like, oh, that's adorable. But
so wait, let's pause. I want to give like full disclosure here. So Sharon is a good friend of mine. And there's a lot that went into her being in a course like this, because, when you do something with a friend, you can like maybe not be as accountable as you would normally be.
Right.
When Sharon and I had the conversation about her joining this course, we had this really clear conversation around commitment. We'll get there in a second. But what I wanted to just speak into is I would, of course, be like, Sharon, I'm going to do this thing in the course. I'm so like, I can't wait to do that. Like, because she's my friend and I wanted to share what I was excited about. And I love this.
I couldn't hear you for a second.
Oh, can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay, great. Sorry. Let me know if that happens again. We don't want anybody to be missing out what's being said here, because the gems I'm dropping now. So I hope I can say something good. Right. So, but I had this idea around having a pledge inside of the course, because it is important to me that we're rewriting the stories we tell ourselves in this whole process. And so I like how Sharon was like mocking it. And now what you have to say.
In my head.
In your head. Right. What do you have to say? Tell me about it now. What do you say about it now?
So the fact that in that pledge, we committed to essentially trusting the process, doing it differently, and fully showing up. And I made a personal commitment to myself to approach this with a beginner's mind and from a place of curiosity, which is not my normal go-to.
What's your tell us so we can identify with you. What's your normal go-to?
Well, I'm not 22 years old. So I've tried so many things and I've had varying degrees of success. So I think my normal go-to is like, yeah, those are good ideas and I'm sure they'll work for someone, probably not me. This has been my experience, blah, blah, blah. So there's a bit of a jaded feeling, and also knowing the benefit, and also seeing, when I've been in group programs before and seeing people have these breakthroughs, and I kind of wish sometimes that I was doing it for the first time and experiencing it for the first time so I could have those breakthroughs. And so I made a conscious choice of I am going to do all of these things as if it's the first time. And obviously I'm bringing myself to it. So I do have experience, and my life experience and my experience in the business, but not letting my past dictate my future, which I think is a stance I took a lot, is, well, the past experience was XYZ, therefore what will happen in the future, as if I was a mathematician reading the future.
Right. Yeah. And I love how you're saying this, because it's so easy to want to bring, like, we can also use our skepticism, I'll use that word for a second, as our way of like being a smart consumer, or like being like, right, is this for me or not? Like, and it is part of the conversation, right? But I like that your willingness is, I'm going to go in this with a full beginner's mind, because there must be something, I believe that there's something here for me, and I'm going to let go of the idea that I have to know everything in advance. Right?
Yes.
Very different way. And also something that you said that, this in Agent Goals, I say, you don't need a referral. You don't need a reel. You don't need to have amazing credits. And all you have to have is a great headshot and know how to act. Right. So That's pretty different than stuff that people hear. So it's going to be very hard to embrace that. Like, wait, I just need to, like, it's going to be hard to embrace so many years of being told this is how you need to do it. So I want to underline one thing: 35 meetings, no referrals. Because
Thank God I didn't have to do the referral route this time. Hallelujah.
Tell me why you say that.
I mean, I've had many a meeting over the years through referrals, but there's just something exhausting about having to, this friendship that you cultivate in a certain realm with someone. You work together, you have these great experiences, and then you have to ask for the favor, and then you have to follow up and the thing and the thing, and then maybe the person is doing it as a favor for it. Just is, and to keep that organized and it's just exhausting. And this was so much more empowering because I was presenting myself. I wasn't begging anyone else for help. And it also, when I would do the referral route, it made each single person so important. That one person that my one friend is going to introduce me to, instead of this approach, which was so much more like my person will come to me through this process.
Yeah. I love the way you
I
say
didn't
that.
have to decide who it was ahead of time. Oh, it was great.
Right. And so one of the things about referrals that always bug me, and you articulate it really well, is it's one more person between you and your person.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's like a misguided matchmaker, because
Right.
no referral is ever like easy, effortless. Certainly I'll email my agent and refer you and say you're amazing, and they'll do it really, really well. And like, there's just one more person who's like literally a misguided matchmaker. So for me, as I was thinking about this, like, I want referrals out. It just makes people crazy and like relying on other people. And so I appreciate you saying what that kind of gave to you. So if you had to identify one thing inside of the program of Agent Goals that helped you the most, what would you say that would be?
Wow, one thing. Oh, can I say two?
I will give permission.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, so one exercise that we do early on, which is about owning your life story, your artistic life story, and how that sort of intertwines with your personal life story, because it just does. As an artist, they just do intertwine. And I also think that when you're looking for, especially a manager, when you're looking for representation, who you are as a person and your life experiences and the things you know and the things you've done and the tragedies and all that is part of how you are going to approach a role in a unique way. So we did an exercise that was really about owning your story, and the good, the bad, and the ugly, I guess. And to be able to own all of those elements was great, because I feel like so often in the past in a meeting, I felt like I had to show them how I was just on it and perfect in all these ways. And this approach is much more like, I'm a human and that's been on a journey, and I have some interesting stories to tell, and some of them are funnier, and some of them are more heart-centered or painful, and they're all equally valid, and all I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to just have it all together already up front. So that exercise. And then the other thing is, which I can't even believe I said to myself, because as we can see right now, I'm definitely comfortable talking. But I wrote down somewhere, I'm really nervous that I'm not going to have anything to say in a meeting, because I, in the last couple months, I haven't been on a set because it's been a weird time, right? So since I was like, I'm not even gonna have a project to pitch about. This is what I've been busy doing, and to a certain degree, that was like such a relief, because it gave me permission to just have a conversation as a person with who is an actor and has experiences as well. Right. So I didn't have to say like, oh, I'm doing this fabulous project that you're so interested in, but instead I got to say like, this is who I am. And so we did this exercise with the most common questions that
top 20 questions.
Top 20.
Yeah.
And so I sat with the page and I wrote out answers for each of the things. And then I was like, okay, so it's like doing my work as an actor. I'm going to do all the writing on the paper and the backstory and the beats and all that stuff. And then now I know it, put it aside. And in my meetings, the combination of those two, having have thought about the answers to questions, and also having really have sat with myself, I felt like any question was so easy to approach, because you gave us all these tools to notice them and own them and be comfortable.
I love the way you said that. And I love kind of what you connected to just now was this, how it connects to acting almost. Not that you were acting in your meetings, because clearly you weren't, you're being your most authentic self in those meetings,
Yeah.
but the idea of I prepare and then I'm free. And but in
Mhm.
this way you get to this. And when you said that about, that you're not going to have anything to say. What was the first point? I want to nail that point again. The first piece. So the second was you already were going to have anything to say. And so you had the top 20 questions. The first
Right.
point was around, what was the first one around? Because you
Oh, it
just,
was about feeling like in meetings in the past that I had to show them that I was
yes.
just on it.
Yeah. And so what's so important about what you just described is, so let's play out. You showed up as the perfect actor in the
Right.
meeting.
Right.
And let's say that they signed you as the perfect actor in the meeting. And
Mhm.
then all I think about is all of your communications after that point will be the most stilted, bizarre. How are you going to even talk to each other? Like bad relationship, all the things we think about having in a bad relationship all of a
Right.
sudden,
So you're
Jar.
like, I'm gonna pretend to be someone fabulous and then hook them. And
Yes.
then later they'll find out who I really
Yeah.
am.
And then when I'm on set and I'm going neurotic because it's 120 degrees in the room we're shooting in and I need to ask for help, I'll be like, I just wanted to ask a quick question to see if you might be
Right.
like,
And
no, it,
certainly I don't actually need help because
right.
have it all together.
Right. Yeah. 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 And so to me, if this is, I'm going to give you the doomsday scenario of the way I want to think about reps is, do you feel like if you were in a horrible situation on set, you'd be okay calling them? It's kind of like that's,
You said that when I was actually deciding between a couple people.
yeah.
I mean, let me tell you also, it certainly did not hurt to be in meetings where it was so clear. They were pitching themselves to me. They were saying, let's do this. They were saying, even if you don't decide to do it now, the door is always open, because what I presented to them in terms of my materials and the way I reached out already was such a clear picture of who I was, that they already knew what, when a referral, for example, you're walking in the room and they're saying, how do we know it? How did you get here? So these people, when they were reaching out, they were like, I loved that you had a self-tape. I loved that, this part of your reel or whatever it was. But they had, or I had something in the email that I sent to people that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
And when people would comment on that, I just knew right away, okay, well, what I know is that we have the same sense of humor. So that's
Yeah.
already weeding out the people that aren't your people. But going back to the point of who do you want to call in a disaster moment?
Yeah.
You had said that when I was like, I don't know to choose between this one or that one. And it was very clear the answer that came to my head. And that's actually the direction that I went.
Wow. I love that. I love that it took a doomsday scenario, but I think that really cuts to us getting through the noise, that we
Mm-hmm.
have going on our head. And what you just said, I think is important to underline around, um, uh, I guess the idea that when you're, oh, I just lost my thought. I got so excited that I lost my thought.
We
When
both
you were, so let me go back to the backtrack a little bit. So when you were talking about, that you would, oh, I know, when you would send out those emails and this is not just about emails, obviously this agent
no.
goals, it's one piece of it, right?
Yeah.
But that they already felt like they wanted you before you showed up to the meeting is what I'm
Mm-hmm.
hearing you say. How could you what sense, how did you pick up on that? What was the temperature there was no temperature in the room because most of these were Zoom meetings, I'm imagining, right?
Yes.
So how were you picking up on that? Just so people who are thinking about having meetings in this time, how did you pick up on that? Was it their words? What it was, how they acted?
I mean, it was a combination of sometimes even in the email, I could just tell that they were saying, excuse me, not that I could tell, but they were pretty explicitly saying, I love your work. I would love to work with you. Can we hop on the phone?
Got it.
Yeah, I mean, people were pretty outright saying, let's do this.
Love it.
Um, it was funny that the first time someone said, great, I'll let you know in a week, I was like, whoa, everyone has told me that they want to work with me immediately. And side note, in the past, like I said, I've taken so many meetings in my life before, and it has never been people always saying, the norm was always like, we'll think about it and get back to us and get back to you. Don't call us, we'll call you type of thing. But this, people were very clear.
Got it. What's interesting is I didn't pick up on that until just now, that little time frame you're talking about, which is when you would have the meeting, you would get the offer almost in the room or right away. And that was very
Mm-hmm.
different Yes, I think that's a really exciting thing that I didn't even think about. So you just said that, like
Yeah.
something about in the way that you presented yourself, they already knew who you were before you got to the call, right?
Hmm.
So when you got on the call, it was like, let me just verify she's who I think she is,
Yeah.
so I can give her an offer. So such an expedited process to get there. And right. And so the inner work you talked about, this deep inner work you did before you showed up there was like, oh, you probably showed up like, oh, she's hella more than what I
Yeah.
got in that email. Like she's even more. Well, I love that. So,
And
so
actually this one element of I mean, if people are listening to a podcast, they don't know what I look like, but
but there's many watching on Facebook as well.
oh,
So we're
hello, those of you on Facebook.
good.
So I have dark curly hair and olive skin, and my entire life, people have asked me on like a weekly basis, "What are you?" Right? That's a phrase that has been used, which I think is a mild. I know what they're asking, but it's a mildly obnoxious way to
Sure.
ask the
Yeah.
question, right? And so that was a big part of the looking at the story of like dealing with this. I don't easily fit into a box. I'm not the obvious
Mm-hmm.
this type of person, or I'm not obviously this type of, like, if people always have to ask me what I am, it's definitely not obvious, right?
Right.
So this thing that I have always seen as such a hindrance, I owned that that's part of the process of why I am where I am today, because the conversation is changing around that. So I felt like there was some relevance to the way I was able to approach that. And also all the people I was talking to were like, that is one of the things we're most excited about.
Oh, I
There's
love it.
like this kind of what are you-ness about you.
Which also, let's be really clear, like since we've known each other for a while, like that used to be the reason why like no one's picking you up, no one's saying yes to you, right?
Right.
And so in a way of, and at the time I feel like efforts in the past, and you can fix me up if I'm getting this right, is like trying to lean into that, like tiptoeing around it, like dancing around, like trying to make sure that people could see like, you can kind of paint me as anything, or you can
Right.
like was
Right.
kind of an angle. And it wasn't in owning that truth
Right.
in this was the new kind of angle that helped to make it work this time, which is
Yeah.
exciting, right? So that must have, so how did that feel? I want to just ask you
I mean, I think that everyone uses the same word, but empowered is the word. Everyone's using that word.
yeah, it's a great word. It's a great word. When you feel empowered though, what does that feel like? Let me push it a
Yeah.
little further.
Um, I mean, it definitely feels relaxed in my body. It feels joyful. It feels clear. There is the overwhelm is not running the show at all. It feels organized. It feels like I heard someone else mention this idea recently too, of being comfortable with the idea that I could say no to everybody that I meet with, and that would be okay. And that I get to say yes or no. Um, and actually going into the reaching out process saying, if I say no to everyone, that's because I am I am in charge of this process for myself. Um, it also took a lot of pressure off of meetings, because I wasn't asking people like, please work with me. I was saying like, let's see if we jive with the way that we think about the business and think about our our approach. And the manager that I chose was the first one that actually um, knew what to do with the relationships that I've built over the years.
Great.
And I was like, that's who I'm looking for, the person who knows how to do that. And
Great.
I knew what kind of manager I needed.
You know, it's interesting what you're saying. I'm noticing a trend because in Caroline's video, which is 2 ago, she was talking about how she is a creator and she wanted someone who would notice and appreciate that. And
Mhm.
then Stephanie said how much it was important to her that the person she met with really, she felt good in around them, that was
Mhm.
part of, like, even though it was of Zoom or whatever. Right. And so what I'm noticing even to use your beautiful definition of empowering, which included the word joy, which made me so happy, right? That you can be joyful in your empowerment, right? It doesn't have to be a
Like,
militant statue necessarily, right?
oh,
Yeah. But that you use that in that way, you were able to speak to both in the way you messaged out and in the way you were in your meeting, what actually you wanted in this relationship. It wasn't let's dance around like what everybody wants here, and we're going to kind of figure it out as we go. Like you
sure,
knew.
we all want to make money. We all want to book jobs, but there's more to it than that. Like what are my jobs? What am I bringing to the table? What are you bringing to the table? How do we use that together? And that was, and also in our, I know that we go back to the email or the letter that we're sending, the email that we're sending, but it's just the tool, it's not the
Right.
thing, it's just a tool. But one of the elements where we have to sort of bullet point some of our sexier things,
Yeah.
sexy in a business way,
Right.
uh, made me, if the things that I picked out to put in my bullet points were things that I valued, right? So one of those was about the relationships that I had built. So the person that was able to speak to that and so confidently say, great, I know what to do with all of that. I knew that that person aligned with me because I had already decided that was a value. That was something
Right.
that I feel I bring to the table.
Right. What's so interesting about this, and I'll just give like a tiny construction thing around the email. The email is one piece in this big process, obviously, but that email is precious real estate. That's the way I like to describe it. And that is where you're showing what I want in my career and who I've been in my career. And until you can own that, and otherwise it sounds like I just took out a billboard on Sunset Boulevard and I hope someone notices.
Right.
Like I'm just a really great actor. And like it can't be that. It actually has to be so vulnerable to express really. So I appreciate the way you're describing those bullet points. I'm going to definitely steal that.
Okay, great.
Great. Tell me, you may have answered this, but let's see. What did you learn about yourself in this process?
What did I learn about myself? I learned that I have a lot to offer. I learned that I don't have to be embarrassed to say things like that.
That is a big one. Please, everyone, be big, be big, be big. Yes, I get that.
I learned that all of the things that I have experienced in my life are part of it, and are positives. Even the negatives are, and you sort of couch it in a way of like, well, what is it that what's the growth? What did you learn from those things that happened to you, or those things you experienced? So it's not just like sad things, right? It's like sad thing, and I grew in these ways because of XYZ. Yeah. So I think there's something really grounding about owning your story.
Yeah. You know, what you just said made me think about that if you believe in a universe that is always conspiring in your favor, like if you fully can believe that, then everything that has happened up till now has happened exactly when it was supposed to at exactly the right time. And this that is the foundation of this program. So if we move from that belief on day one from enrollment, that you have not had the exact success with representation up until this moment because you actually weren't supposed to, which feels very daring to even say. Yeah. Right now I'm saying it, I feel daring to say this, right? Yeah. Oh my God, actors are listening to this. But that if we believe that and then we look at our past, we then get to say, what did I learn by each of those things that happened that will take me and make me more ready for representation in this way right now? And I use the word representation as like, I like to think of representation as the door that opens for you to have more of an impact, right? It is not like, now that I have the manager, my purpose is fulfilled, right? But it is like, so that we want to be in big movies, we want to be in big theater, we want to be in big shows so that they have bigger impact on the world. And that's what I think of the manager or agent as a piece of that. And so if we believe in that universe always going towards what is good for you, then we have to go back and say, great, so these crappy things might have happened. So how do I now not rewrite history, but own the lesson in a way that makes me more of who I am, more ready to sit across from the fancy pants manager and say, well, duh, are you going to work with me or not? I'm amazing.
Yeah. Right? And actually, this is not from this course, but it built into it. When I was going through a very hard time in my life a number of years ago, someone had said to me, when you are vulnerable, you're even more beautiful. And I looked at her kind of like, that's not true. That can't be true. That's not what I learned growing up. And so that's something I've really carried with me. And so to know that I can go into these meetings this time and be vulnerable and be flawed and love that I'm flawed,
Mm.
um, it made it so much easier to connect to people.
Yeah. What you just reminded me of is the way you said that is I'm I'm a human being and I'm not delusional. Like it feels
Yeah,
so honest.
yeah, that's a word that you said a couple
A
times during.
lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
A couple, like a lot. And I thought of that throughout as like, don't be delusional, right? About where you should be right now. There's no shoulds, right? But yeah, I think that it was that you have that kind of fabulous Patacca mix of like this the spiritual approach to it and the like, don't be delusional.
Well, because and then well, I love what you're saying. I appreciate the compliment. I'll take it because part of what I think, and if you're listening or you're watching, it's so important to think about the idea that you want this person who will be looking at your resume and looking at your email or whatever this messaging, if it's your first email or your follow-up email or the third follow-up email, right? At the same time. So if you're this puffed up fancy pants email and your resume is like, you have this on your resume, then you are now a delusional person. So I can't believe anything you've written down at all. Maybe your
Right.
resume is even fake, right?
Yeah.
So if your resume actually, like, I think of this email as like filling in between the lines of how this resume has gotten to be where it is. Then I said, like, oh, I have a full picture here. I think sometimes we forget that this is the whole presentation here. These pieces all need to work together, right? So
And oh, I'm sorry.
no, I'm gonna hear from you.
Okay, great. So we the EPK, right? Electronic press kit.
Yeah.
Just easier to say our EPK.
Yeah.
I felt like because there were things in there that I would have never thought to, like I would have never sent someone screen grabs or something like that. But I found that the people that I spoke to, when I would ask them, what kind of roles are you imagining for me? Or like, where do you see me? They always got it right. They got it. Because clearly what I was presenting was telling the story that I wanted to be telling.
Right. And I love what you're saying here, because I think a lot of actors can get stuck in this branding rabbit hole of just like, what's my branding? And my branding is the reason why I'm not successful. I'm branding. I pay thousands of dollars for branding workshops. And like,
yeah,
I've said this before, that like you have to brand yourself in a way where a manager or agent knows how to submit you, but not to pigeonhole yourself in a place where they feel like, are you doing my job? Like they want to feel like they have a part of that conversation. And so what I love what you're saying is the way that you use the Agent Goals program was to make sure that I presented a full picture of who I was, both in my bullet points and in my images and in the way I'd use the EPK, that like they had a vision of where I'm going, who I am, and then they could say yes to that journey with me. So that's exciting, right? Yeah, right. Love that. So, okay. So maybe last question. We'll see. We might have some more. There are probably a lot of actors who are watching right now or listening and who were where you were before this all started. And what do you think they need to hear?
I think that they need to hear that that it's totally worth it. And that the work that we do in this program, if you fully commit to it, will positively bleed into a lot of other areas of your life.
Talk about that a little more. I want to hear about that.
So I think I was mentioning to you that I was deleting emails from my MailChimp mailing list.
Okay.
And I think in the past,
anybody who doesn't know what MailChimp is, MailChimp's like if you use an actor newsletter, you send out mass emails. It's one of the places where you might do that. This is not part of Agent Goals. We're going off script here. So
okay.
You're getting the backstage part here. We don't have a script also, but we're going.
No, we definitely don't. off our improv script.
Off our improv script, right.
And I was like, I don't need to have people on the list that aren't interested and aren't opening. Like I am free to release anyone that wants to be released. And I think that just that empowered sort of like make the space for my people and not go, maybe hopefully one day someone. Instead, it's just like present who you are and your people will will see it.
Yeah. And what I love, and when you're talking about specifically, if anyone's not catching, is like unsubscribes is like, some people can really relate to the
Great.
unsubscribes. And it's the same way that I think actors in a manager hunt or agent hunt can relate to people who don't open their email or the silence that they hear.
Yeah.
Right.
And I love that you even address the silence and the data, not drama, and the stories that we make up about, like, okay, well, let's confront what is the story that you write when someone doesn't respond to your email, or when they say XYZ to your email, or they say no, or they say not right now, or they say yes. Like, what is that story that you write? And is that story useful?
Yeah, I mean, it's so curious because I think some people will be surprised to hear that even a yes, you can write a story about a yes that is not helpful to you. Oh my gosh, the manager said yes, they want to meet with me, which means I am awesome and validated in the world, and my acting is meaningful, and like you just gave that person like the magic wand to your heart, like this,
right?
Take my heart with you, right? And so you have to be, the yes is a I'm interested. The yes is I'm attracted. Let's see, like it's a I desire that, but I don't need it. It's a very different way to relate to it. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. I think that's anything else you need. Oh wait, one thing that we said we were going to talk about, we didn't, which was the commitment that you had inside this program. Let's just talk about that for 1 second.
Okay. So then we also said we were going to talk about follow-ups.
Oh man, let's do both first. Okay. So the commitment you had in this program. So I will just say, Sharon got 35 meetings. I got that number wrong, you guys. So she corrected me today. Because you went full in, and you talked about this a little bit at the beginning about how you went in with the beginner's mind. And, we've worked out a little bit of like, the Agent Goals program is at an hour a day with Saturdays and Sundays off. Is about how much work it takes. So 5 hours a week sounds a little scarier than an hour in a day, Monday through Friday, but that's about what it takes to do the work during this program. And you were full in. Can you tell us a little bit about just your mindset around that? Because I know a lot of people wrestle with, what if I don't show up, or what if I don't do the work, or what if like that they can write that story for themselves, which is so painful to me, because then it means they're going to either try to do it on their own, or
they're just going to beat themselves up every step of the way.
Yeah. Can you tell, how did you get how did you help yourself?
Well, I think that I just kept reminding myself that I decided to do it. And like, how many classes have I signed up for in the past that I have that like burst of excitement in the beginning, and then I let it fade away. But this time I was like, and also the community within the program was just so lovely.
Yeah. And I appreciate saying that. I think it's really easy to be like, oh, Facebook group, who cares? And I'll be honest, like, that's not what this Facebook group is. Like, you're on the same path with them. And I think that the magic is, I go, let's do some really deep work at the beginning. And so then everyone's like, I'm open and ready. And then all of a sudden they're like, I am here for you, girl. I saw a post yesterday. Someone put up, I'm just going to share this post yesterday. It said, I'm really procrastinating. And the reason why I know, and I'm being resistant, is because my entire house is really, really clean. I've organized my spice cupboard. Like literally, she was like my linen closet. She goes, and so my commitment to you guys is I'm going to have it done by Friday. Like, she jumped right back in because she knew that like she was being resistant. But what I say is, when you're in a group like that, it is impossible not to be honest with yourself. So I think it would be in a group where you're like kind of interacting, you might not put that kind of post up. That's a pretty vulnerable post, but in a group where you're like, hey, we're in, you gotta show up. So I'm sorry, I was interrupting your like,
and just that energy where it's so clear from everyone that as soon as you say like, I'm going to send my stuff, that everyone's like, yes, go do it. You got this, Sharon. I'm so proud. Can't wait to hear it. And it's so inspiring. And just, I mean, I think we all really want the best for each other. And knowing that it's not like there's 6 pieces of pie and the first 6 people will get it. But just that there's, and also, I mean, we do like, we go big in our numbers, and there's also something so freeing about really realizing like, there are so many options out there, and to not choose ahead. I don't think I would have chosen ahead of time that this person, that these people would be my managers. I don't think that they would have been on my like, well, this is obvious because I've heard this person and that person talk about them.
I think that's scarcity in that like target list stuff. Like that's the other lie. No target list. I forgot to even mention that earlier. Like that a target list is the most misinformed, fake news, not using that word, but fake news place to be, because you don't know enough. Sorry.
You just don't.
there's no way you're going to have enough contact in your life to know who everybody is.
Exactly.
Smart. It's just, and I think it's really cutting off your nose to spite your face. And like, it
Mm-hmm.
just really is. So is there anything in the program that also helped you keep on track? I want to just stay on this for a second, because I know people can get worried about anything in the program that also helped you say, hey, this day I'm going to get this done, or that kind of stuff.
Well, I loved when you started including checklists of the homework and things like that. So
Right.
it was just, we had all these worksheets and stuff, but we had a checklist so that you knew exactly where you were in the process and what you had completed, so you can celebrate completing things.
Right.
And like look at it and go, okay, right now I have the time to do this more administrative type of thing. Right now I'm going to give myself that, turn off my phone and computer dinging and beeping, and I'm going to give myself an hour to just do some writing on this particular element of it, or answer these questions for myself, or whatever it is. And I'm the type of person who loves research and lists and things like that. So in some ways, like those were my gifts. Like, oh, you get to research for hours. A lot of people are like, that sounds like torture, but
right.
So yeah, obviously doing the writing kind of more self-exploratory work where there's no beginning, middle, and end in theory, but there actually is a beginning, middle, and end. It's so broken down, so every step of it, of each exercise that you give us, so when you've gotten to the end of the exercise.
Great.
Right? So you're never kind of going like, did I do enough?
Did I finish it? Oh, I love you saying that, because I will say, and I don't know if anybody else listening feels this way, but I said, my mom says that when I was 4 years old, she said, what's your favorite thing? And I said, starting something and finishing it, which I think says a lot about me as a 4-year-old, by the way. That is one of my values inside the program, that you can feel like that is done. Let me check off that box and feel good about it, so I can so I appreciate you saying, you don't know how much that means to me, that was something you experienced. So I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I've taken so much of your time today, Sharon. Thank you so much for going so long with me into this conversation. I think did we cover both of the two things you said? The one was the commitment.
Oh no, the other was the follow-up.
Oh my God, Sharon. Okay. Oh my gosh, Sharon has the best follow-up story. You guys, you have to share this. So tell. Or how do you want me to start? I'm not going to set you up. I'm gonna let you take the mic.
And I love talking to you, Brian. So it's fine that we're taking time. I don't even know what time it is. So it's again broken down so clearly of how to follow up at each level in terms of the responses that you get. And so one of the pieces is for the people that say no or not right now, which is basically what a no is. Like, no one wrote me an email being like, you're terrible, don't you dare email me again. Like, I didn't get anything like that. Actually, a lot of the not right nows were like, you're brave, and I know that you're going to end up in the right place, and I'm wishing you luck. Like, people were jumping on the bandwagon of like, you got this, girl.
So that is really, I want to make sure, like, that is unique. I mean, not unique inside of Agent Goals, but I mean, unique to the experience
in the world.
Yeah. To be able to have shown up in the way that you present yourself, where even a no or a not right now, or which are the same thing, right? Is a not right now is saying, keep going. Like, there's a human cheerleading of generosity in that moment. So that the positioning that I think Agent Goals does well is part of what makes that so possible. So share about how this follow-up worked for you.
Okay. So in our follow-up for Not Right Now, we're sending an authentic thank you note, right? And part of that was sharing the vulnerability of this journey. And so like, this is a vulnerable journey, and I appreciate you acknowledging that and writing back to me, right? Because everyone's busy, and it is a big deal if someone takes the time to write back to you or give you a specific
something.
Yeah.
I liked your tape or whatever.
Yeah. And there was one person that I think it happened actually more than once, but one I know for sure that her first email was like, no, it's not, like, it's a terrible time and just absolutely not taking meetings. And I sent her the follow-up, and oh yes, it happened a couple times. And from my thank you follow-up, she was like, you know what? I decided to look at your materials again, and I think you're great, and I'd love to meet with you. And there was another person that right in the beginning was like, no. I sent my thank you note, and ultimately he was like, you want to meet for coffee? And I'd love to be a mentor of some sort. And so I think that also a lot of the reps that we're sending things to aren't used to receiving authentic responses.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you do respond in a like, I'm a person and I appreciate this about you, other person,
Right.
response, that it stands out.
Yeah. And what I hear you saying that I just love is that the kind of formula, which is a crappy, shitty word to use for what I'm describing, but like the formula that we use for this thank you is so forces you to be honest and authentic that is why it can garner another response besides delete, right? Like besides like, great, I got to thank you from that actress, moving on, right? That they can actually continue to see into, and to me, it even speaks to the whole journey of like, whatever you stirred in that first email stayed through that entire process. So that's really exciting. So, I think that's, I feel really good about this. And I don't feel quite complete because I want to say one more thing, which is I've known you for such a long time.
Yeah.
And your ups and downs with representation and the business or whatever. And to see in like the past, 3 weeks, I think it is maybe like signing with the manager of your choice. Mm-hmm. And then maybe it's a little more, I guess. Yeah. And then having 2 incredible auditions in the past 7 days.
Yeah.
And just the way you described showing up to those meetings is so different than what I heard in the past. I just want to compliment you for going all in a way where I'm going to use the analogy, which is you don't have to believe it's going to make a cake, but if you put these ingredients together, it's going to make a cake. Just your faith in trusting in the process and going with the process, which is a part of the pledge. I'll try to post the pledge with this video on Facebook so those of you can read it. Yeah. But thank you so much for your time today, Sharon. And for everyone here who is listening, for tuning in and hearing how Sharon got to how she was able to make this happen. I hope this helps you make more of a decision about joining me for Agent Goals, and also to see me in the webinar next week for Make Agents Want You. Thank you so much, Sharon. We're so excited. Please keep us up to date on all the good things going on in your career.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, lady. Of course. Bye. Love you. Be good. Wait, Sharon. Any way people can stay in touch with you or follow you anywhere? Do you want them to do that?
Oh, sure.
Right.
I'm Sharon on Screen is my Instagram.
Great. Sharon on Screen.
Yeah.
You got Sharon on Screen. That's that's a good name that you got on your site.
Because Sharon Freedman was taken somewhere. Yeah. There's like a doctor or something, Dr. Sharon Freedman. So I had to, and then I came up with that one.
That's a great one.
But I'm also SharonFreedman.com.
Great. All right. Oh, and Sharon is also, I'm going to promo you for a second here.
Oh,
Sharon is an incredible mindfulness and life coach. And she actually, I just got an email from her today that is so wonderful. And if you go to, I don't know, can we go to your website and see that, or do you have to be special to be able to see it?
You do have to be special, but if you go to Stress Reduction Joy Production, stressreductionjoyproduction.com, and you send me a note there, like an email through the little contact form, I'll send you the video series.
Oh, I love it. Great. Sharon giving us a gift. Didn't even expect it. You gave us so many gifts today. All right. Thank you so much. All right. I really appreciate it and love you, and I'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Tell us about those auditions. Keep in touch.